Hello, today is April 22nd, 2009. We're meeting today with Mr. Kenneth Buffington at his home in Fort Collins, Colorado. My name is Brad Hoops. I'm the interviewer for the Northern Colorado Veterans History Project. Welcome, Ken, and thanks for participating in the project today.
Oh, you're welcome anytime. Yeah.
Let's start out, if we could. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your date of birth, where you were born, a little bit about your family.
I was born out on a farm. No doctor. One of those ladies, that does that kind of work. In 19, September the 30th, 1919. Quite some time back.
Yes, it was. Your farm, where was your farm? What was the nearest town you guys?
We was 11 miles from Wauneta, Nebraska. That was our home. And there was 4 of us boys and one sister.
Where were you in that?
I was the youngest boy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you went through school,
Through
that whole area.
school. And the other boys didn't get to go to high school except one, Bob, the one next to me. And the other boys, they had to stay home and work. And that become my work when I was a sophomore in high school. So I farmed the place from the time I was a sophomore in high school until I went into service in 42.
You carried on your schoolwork and
Yeah.
farming as well.
Yeah.
Made for a long
Yeah.
day.
My dad was, well, he just wasn't healthy. He had a little problems here and there. So as kids, we become farmers when we was pretty young, really. And I always liked to farm, but I don't know, too much dirt.
So you said you farmed until you went into the service. After you graduated
Went
from
into
school,
service.
there was a gap, or did you go right into
Yeah.
the service?
I graduated in 1938, and then I went into service in 42.
42.
Yeah.
Now, were you? Where were you then when you heard that Pearl had been bombed? When Pearl Harbor had been attacked. Do you remember where you
Oh.
were?
I was a year later.
Yeah.
It was still awful over there when I got there. But I'll go back. I went to boot camp in the Great Lakes.
Up in Chicago area?
Yeah.
Well, let's back up. Let me ask you, I didn't ask you what branch of service,
Yeah.
did you enlist or were you
Navy.
drafted?
My brother was in the Navy, so we decided I better go too. So
Well,
it worked out real good.
how did 2 boys in landlocked Nebraska end up on the sea? Is that,
Just Brother Bill was in Denver, and my brother Bob was in Denver when I had to leave. So my dad had one of them come down and their families, and they stayed there while we was in the service and
okay.
on the farm to help him out.
So you took off for boot camp in the Great
Yeah.
Lakes area. Do you remember that day you left home? Was there any sort of
It
send-off
was
at all?
in September sometime.
Yeah.
I don't remember the date.
Did you
but,
go solo, or would a bunch of buddies go with you, or how did you take?
Oh, there was a group of us. There was 3 of us from McCook and Wauneta and Imperial. So we all went to Omaha for the exam, and all that stuff, health. And we all passed. So then they sent us on out to boot camp. And we was supposed to be there for 10 days. We was there 5 days. So when we carried our guns was a wooden gun, that they had to send the other ones over to boys overseas. So we walked around with that old wooden gun, during boot camp. And we got through that all right and come home for 5 days, then back to Chicago, then from Chicago clear to San Francisco, and then from San Francisco we took the Queen Mary, thousands and thousands of troops on that big old tub.
Once again, let me ask you. Here's a farm boy from Nebraska. How was it going on the ocean? Did you get your sea legs, or how did that work out for you?
It didn't bother. I didn't get sick or
Really?
nothing, but boy, there was a lot of boys
Yeah.
that was awful sick. They got that going seasick, and it was awful. So some little old guy told me before I went in, when you go out to sea, get a loaf of bread or a slice of bread, or eat all the bread you can eat. So I did that.
And
So
it
that
worked.
helped me a lot. And then we went to Hawaii.
Did you know where you were heading? Did they tell you, or did you just start heading west? And
They just we just had to follow along. And I didn't go in the service to make money. I went in there to get the thing over with so I could get home. I wasn't used to that water and stuff, and being around a whole bunch of people, and especially all boys.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I played sports in high school and all that stuff, and
Oh, I imagine you probably on the Queen Mary had more on that ship than the whole town of Wauneta. I would
yeah,
more than that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the Farenholt was my ship that I went aboard, USS Farenholt, a destroyer.
And that's you caught that in Hawaii. You got on that in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And you
So,
said you when you got there was still a lot of damage in Pearl.
real damage.
Really?
It was awful. Awful smell. Uh, which it was. But we could see on TV, how bad it was. Well, it was worse
Worse.
than that.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, of course, all of the guys were dead, and they were still in the water around where we was docked, and so got through that okay. And then they sent me to radar school for 5 days. 5 days, and then about a month, long and after Christmas a little bit, we took off and went to the South Pacific. And that's where we started down at Guadalcanal and went up clear through the Solomon Islands, clear up to Okinawa. That was our last big place we took over. And then we went into to Japan and bombed them, and it was over with.
Well, let's back up and let's talk about that journey. What was life like on aboard the destroyer, as far as sleeping arrangements, food? What did you guys do for entertainment?
We had a nice dry place to sleep. We always had plenty to eat. We'd go to general quarters sometimes for 2 days, day and night.
And would general quarters be your radar station as well, or did you
Yeah.
have some? Okay.
From your radar to your gun. And then we had sandwiches. The cooks would bring us sandwiches around, and we kind of traded off maybe 20 minutes sleep, and back and forth. With all the guys that we had 300 aboard, of us all together. So at general quarters, everybody was at a place. And
Now, I'm sorry. You said your general quarters is a gun. You weren't at your radar. In general quarters, you went to a gun.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, that was my job because some of the boys stayed right in the radar,
Okay. Okay.
But I happened to get a pretty speedy with my putting them shells in that gun. They took me out of radar and put me down on that gun, which I enjoyed. I didn't care. I just wanted to get it done,
Yeah. Yeah. And you
so-
said earlier you were the number one gun on the ship. is
Right.
it? Yeah.
Right.
What was it like? Because that's enclosed. You're down in the South Pacific.
Yeah,
Was
it's
it hot
all
and humid?
enclosed.
I can imagine it had to be hot and humid
Yeah.
inside there.
The powderman was here and I was here, and of course the gun was here, and he put the powder in first, and then I put the bullet in, and then it went off. We didn't know what we killed or what we did.
Was it noisy in there? I mean, that gun going off?
Wasn't too bad.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'd be too far. I'll wait on that. when we went to general's quarters, you know, there was 300 men all trying to get to
Scrambling.
their place, you know. It was kind of rough at times. And upstairs, you know, up a flight of steps, but it was it was different, and we got it done.
Wow. You said you started down the Solomon Islands? Is that where your
Yeah.
first, and worked your way up the pipe all the way to Japan?
All the clear up the pipe.
Yeah, and
And up there, one of those little islands, we went at night on a raid on it, bombard it, you know, and we could hear those people hollering over there. We couldn't understand what they said. That was that close,
you're that close to the island.
that close to the island, and we went right through the middle of them, and we could hear them talk.
Wow.
And then we'd get our guns and start blowing them up.
Was basically your responsibility to show up to these islands and soften up the beach for invasions? Is that what you primarily did?
Yeah,
or-
we've got it ready for the next day or so that they go in and take it over. The Marines and the Army go in, you know. We went with them too. We bombarded before they went in, just before they went in.
Just to soften the beach a
Then they
little.
went in underneath our bombardment.
Boy, being that close to beach, did you ever get shelling from the
We
beach?
got one. The last island we took up, Rabaul, they call it. We went in through there, right in that same place where it was real slow. And we could hear them old 6-inch shells go over the top of us. That's the dangest sound you ever heard.
Oh, it must have been strange for you. Not you can't see where it's coming. You don't know.
Yeah.
You're in enclosed
But
gun.
all you
And,
could just hear, and you could see the dang thing. They had a night, you know, they had a swirl to it that the shell did, but not good. Just by hearing it, you know, it got louder and louder. And then it'd go over and hit over in the water on the other side of us or in front of us. And finally, they got us.
you guys took a hit.
Yeah, they hit into our fire room, one shell,
Wow.
and went off, made a hole as big as that window. And so we had to go into dry dock then.
Where'd you go back for dry dock
Yeah,
repairs?
we had to go back to. Oh, I want to tell a little story before that.
Yeah, please.
Brother Warren's ship was there too. He was on the cruiser, a light cruiser, the Honolulu. They call it the Blue Goose. And
He was in your same formation?
yeah.
Okay.
And so they didn't get to go with us the time we got hit. So when we come back into port, them guys are just hard, you know. And then we got over that, and I got to see him then.
Now, how did you guys link up? How did you know that he was on the other ship? How did that all come together?
Well, they'd be already docked, you know. And then we'd just come alongside, well, probably from here to the fence out there. And that's as close as we got to them. Well, they're all gone now.
Yeah.
And
And you were able to jump over to his ship and get together, or were you just waved from a?
we just waved.
Is that right?
And then he did come over to my ship
Okay.
the next day.
Okay.
And we had dinner together.
Oh, that must have been
And
something.
my brother-in-law, he come too. So all three of us did.
He was on a different ship as well, or?
Well, he was in the Army. And he was over on the shore, and he did the landing the day before, you know,
Jeez.
2 days before. And he lucked out, you know. He didn't get buggered up or anything. And the only thing I got wrong was I blocking my fingernail by putting a shell in the barrel, you know. My finger got underneath of that. and it blackened, and I got blood poisoning. That cleared up my arm. I kept wondering what the heck was that. And then I started to smell something when it went across my nose, you know, and that sucker had blood poison. So I went to the sick bay. Oh, we're going to cut it off right there. I said, no, you're not going to cut it off right there. I'll take care of it. So I went down to the machine shop and got me a little bit, you know, a little bit, and bored a hole in that, and boy, that old stuff shot out there. That's the only thing I got hurt, problem with anything.
Were you awarded for that, or did you even bother to report it?
No,
Yeah.
I didn't report it.
Yeah. I mean, that whole process was a pretty dangerous process, loading those guns.
Oh,
and you're basically sitting on a powder
yeah.
keg.
That bullet that hit us was just about 10 feet, or less than that, about 6 feet from our magazine
Yeah,
down
right.
below,
Oh, jeez.
where we had all our shells and powder. If it had been over that way, it would have blown us all the
Yeah.
kingdom come.
Wow.
Yeah. And my buddy there, he was a fireman, and he was in the fire engine below. There was two of them, one forward and one aft.
The boilers?
And he was aft, but he just got shook because he had on the radio, you know, and all that.
Did you take any casualties that day from that, or was anybody
Yeah.
killed or injured when that hit
Yeah.
that day?
Oh,
On your ship, when that shell hit you, did the ship take any casualties, or?
no.
Oh,
We
was
was
it?
lucky.
Yeah,
We was
yeah.
lucky. Everybody was general quarters. If we'd have been just ordinary, there'd have been some boys really getting killed.
Hmm.
But we was lucky.
Now, where did you go back to dry dock to get your repairs done? Then did you go back to Hawaii?
No, we went back to Wauneta.
Okay, okay.
That's where most of the ships went when we got buggered up. And they had a dry dock, and we drove into that, and they pumped the water out. And then we scraped that whole bottom of that
Well,
ship.
that answers my next question. I was wondering if they gave you, while they were fixing the ship, some R&R, but they.
Gosh, it was awful. Then we had to paint it, you know. And we had those scrapers about that wide. But gosh, we looked like ants all the way around that ship, you know, getting that done before they got the welding done, and so we could go back out, you know. So we got it all done anyway, in a couple of days.
And then from there, continue the story. Where did you guys go from there? Then after your repairs?
Yeah, well, we went right back up the slot with that patch on there, and finally they decided we was having a little trouble with one of the engine room, so they decided that they would send us home, and we was tickled to death. And then we had a little problem on the way home. One of our guys had a Dear John letter, you know.
Oh, jeez.
And, somewhere or other, he either jumped overboard or fell overboard. And it was right out of San Francisco, so close to being home. And we turned around to find him, and it was no good. So we went on in, and so that was the end of that boy's life. So we did lose somebody in the storms. And those daggone typhoons that we had out there.
Yeah, we'll talk about those. I've heard many stories about that. We'll talk about that. But let's continue with your story here. So you guys came back to the States. You had, what, a 30-day leave, or what kind of leave did you have?
We had 10 days.
Was that enough to get back to Nebraska and back?
Yeah. We might as well have stayed aboard ship.
Yeah.
Because it made it that much harder to go back,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then
We was docked in Valley Joe. I call it Valley
yeah,
Joe, but it's
Vallejo.
Vallejo. And of course they had beer joints around there, you know, and we had all our beer and stuff. And I wasn't much of a beer drinker. That didn't agree with me too well. I had to have bourbon. So, I don't know.
So after that, then after the States, you shipped back out to the Pacific again, and
Yeah.
where'd you guys go from there?
We went to Hawaii, of course, and refueled, and of course we didn't have to put any firearms, aboard because we didn't do anything. Then we went over to Wake Island. The Japs still had it, and bombarded the hell out of that, and got that ready for the boys to go in and take over, and got that taken care of. And then we went out back down to in there somewhere along there. We went to Australia for 5
Oh, really?
days. We had a ball down there.
So you got shore leave and were able to get on.
There was none of us sober for 5 days.
Oh,
It was something else. But anyway, we got that done and gone back. And then we went back up the slot to Okinawa, which was a tough one. It's a bigger place and airports and stuff, And I got some pictures to show you on that. Their airplane come in. We got to see it. It had the red flag on it, and of course they had the dang sunrise.
yeah.
On it too.
Coming towards your plane or your ship?
Yeah. Oh, it come right over the top of us, and then it landed on the.
Kamikaze?
Yeah.
Oh.
No,
boy.
no.
Oh.
We got them kamikazes later. They was there, but we didn't get anything close to them until later, before the war was,
Yeah. Right.
earlier, I guess I should say, earlier, because that was something. We've had them land within, closer to that fence to our ship and miss us. And how they did that, I don't know.
Oh,
One time I was out on a 20 millimeter. When I went back after I went home for leave, they put me on a 20 millimeter outside, and we could see that pilot of that plane go down, and it just blowed him all to smithereens, and could have landed right on our ship too,
Wow. I imagine being on that 20 millimeter. Now you're outside. You kind of had a front row seat to a lot of the could you see Okinawa, the invasion going on there, and from your viewpoint? Wow. What was that like? I can't imagine with looking out over the horizon and seeing all those ships. And I heard that was just an amazing sight.
Amazing things.
Wow.
It was amazing. We had gobs of them. After we got, that was in '44. It's pretty well over with. And boy, I'm telling you, you could just look for forever, and there were still our ships.
Wow.
It's 9 miles from the ship to the horizon, and our 5-inch guns wouldn't reach that, so we had to get in closer.
So, like I said, you had a front row seat to a lot of these invasions.
And we nobody could go anywhere without us. We had the submarine Sona
Okay.
aboard, and we got a lot of them submarines that we throw those cans, we call them.
Yeah.
Looked like a 50-gallon barrel. And
Yeah.
boy, when that thing went up, the old ship just bounced like a rubber ball.
Wow. Were you still doing radar at this time? Same time too?
Still radar.
Okay. Was the radar together with the sonar?
All the time I was in.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some guys they took wanted to do something different, and some wanted to do this and do that. But I just wanted to get the thing going, and get out of there.
Yeah.
That was no place for me.
Yeah. How do you figure they came to choose you to do radar? Did you have to Was it a choice, or did you take testing, or
No,
just?
they just picked me out and I went
Uh,
to that school.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then from Okinawa, you guys headed north
Yeah.
into Japan, and
Yeah, and then we took that little old island down there. We had to go in there and get them Japanese officers, and stuff. Um, that was quite a ordeal.
how so? Talk a little bit about that.
Well, we didn't know what was on the ground, and we went. We had our guns on, but they wasn't
Oh,
loaded.
you went ashore.
Yeah,
Oh,
to get them guys, and I got pictures of it. Uh, you'll be surprised how close we was to those guys.
well, now why did they have you guys go ashore as opposed to the Marines or something?
Well, we had a boat, that we could go in and get them and bring them out and put them aboard ship and take them to the main place wherever that was in Okinawa.
But I mean, you didn't have any really combat training or anything to go.
No,
Huh.
all we knew how to do is pick that gun up and put it in that bullet.
Yeah.
Put the bullet in the gun. I
Yeah,
mean.
yeah, yeah.
No, we didn't have that, but we learned it real quick.
On the job training, I suppose. Huh? And then from there, where'd you guys go?
Oh, we was on our way home then. We
Or-
went aboard over to Okinawa. We took an old plane aboard. There was 5 of us guys got to go home. So we got aboard an old plane. We just sat in the door and our feet was sticking outside, and we wasn't probably 100 feet off the ground, and went into Okinawa, and got on a bus, and went over to this little place where they had tents by the thousand, and that was our home until we got ready to get aboard something to go home. So we had a storm that night, just flattened that place out. Them tents were just flat as can be. And over a little hill, probably as high as that house, uh, there was one of those dugout cellar, we called them back home, that they had them. They
For
had
the
their,
burial?
yeah.
Uh-huh.
The Japs had their ammunition and stuff in there.
Oh, okay.
And our boys went in there and started a fire to cook their coffee.
Oh,
And kerwhoom. And the big rocks come up over that hill and fell right on our tent, And boy, we was lucky because we was up at the other end of the deal. It's a good thing we was up there.
yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
So, but
Now, where were you when you heard that we had dropped the atomic bomb? Were you still on ship, or were you on Okinawa?
we was aboard ship
Yeah.
when they dropped the bomb.
Yeah. Could you have any idea what this thing was, the size of this thing, and then a few days later they announced VJ Day.
Yeah.
Do you remember the day? What that
Yeah.
was like? Was there a lot of hooting and hollering on the
I
ship?
got a little story to tell you about that. It come over the radio that the war was over. 2 days before it was over. Boy, we had a celebration, we'd shoot guns and everything up in the air, and it wasn't over with. So we got bombed that night
Really?
from doing that. Because we lit the place up, as in Okinawa. And we got through that all right, but we caught the dickens from Admiral Halsey, him.
Yeah.
He's a strong Navy guy. Good old boy, though. We liked him real well. He gave us credit for what we did. And he didn't like what we did that time.
Did you have the same respect for your commander on your ship and the officers on your ship as well?
Yeah.
What were your thoughts about
Yeah.
them?
All of us got penalized a little bit. I was going up for second grade, you know, or radarman, and I didn't get it. Of course, the war was over, you know, then,
Yeah.
and practically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the next 2 days, we got to do it real. That's when that plane come in and landed over the top of us.
Still, when the Jap plane came over,
Yeah. Yeah.
even though the war was over, they were still attacking.
No. But we didn't shoot at them. They had their, what do they call them, the flag that they fly when you're not supposed to shoot at us, you know.
Kind of a surrender type of flag.
Yeah. So, but we got by that okay. And then the next day or so, well, we got an old tanker, an old empty tanker to come home. The old thing would go along about 5 knots.
You were taken home to, yeah.
So we headed for Hawaii, and we got a faster tanker or ship of some kind. I don't know what it was really. To go from Hawaii home.
Now, talk a little bit about the typhoons. We never really talked about those. You were caught in a couple of those. I've heard all sorts of stories about those things.
Yeah,
Talk about what that was like.
That's something. That's something. You know, I never understood when we went out to sea. When them typhoons come in, you know, we'd be docked, and it'd start pulling our anchor towards the land, you know, and we didn't want to get up on that land, so we'd go out to sea, and we'd go into the daggone toward instead of going away from it, getting out of the way of it, go right into it. I guess the way the ship took it would be better than going sideways.
Yeah. What was that like trying to ride that thing out?
Yeah.
What was it like for you inside the ship?
Golly, you had to hang on. We went to go to supper or dinner, you know, and you had to hang on to your tray, or it'd go clear across the whole table and down the other end.
Wow.
Food all over everything, and guys sometimes the tray slipped away from them, you know, and always had a mess there. But
what was it like? Here you've got, like I said, here's a farm boy from Nebraska. But, you know, a lot of your generation at that time, you really didn't travel too far away from home, from the farm.
No.
Now here you are halfway around the world, all these exotic locations. What was that like to experience something like that? Was it...
Yeah, those life jackets we had was the most greasiest thing I ever put on in my life. So we never used them. I had mine, I had it in the gun. Where I went to general quarters, you know, all the guys on the inside had their life jackets in there, but we never used them.
Was it much of an adjustment for you with the weather over there, with the heat and humidity? Did that ever get to you, or was that much of a problem for you?
The heat?
The heat and humidity being in the tropics like that, was that much of a problem for you at all?
Not too bad.
No.
It got hot, awful, but that didn't bother me too much.
No.
We done button our shirt and roll up our sleeves, you know, and we wasn't supposed to roll up your sleeves. That's against the rules of the Navy, because they don't want you to get burnt,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
on fire. And but we did it anyway. We did a lot of things that we wasn't supposed to, really. But we lived better that way, kind of doing what we did at home and stuff, you know. We had one old schoolboy come aboard, one of these guys that went to college, you know. He was a lieutenant. And so he come aboard, and the next day he wanted to have inspection in whites in the South Pacific. Golly, he didn't last one day. He was booted out of there. We didn't do it. Nobody put on no whites. We just went to general quarters with our regular work clothes, you know.
So the commander of the ship and the officers were pretty lax about that. They let you get away with a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, the old timers, they did the same as we did.
And you liked them? What were your feelings about the ship captain and commander and the officers?
Oh, they was great guys.
Yeah.
They was down to earth people. Probably some of them was farm boys, and kind of our level of living and doing things. And when we went to general quarters, they was right out there with us. Some of the Army people, they was way behind, you know, and the boys went out and did all the work, and they didn't get the credit for it, and the guys behind got all the credit.
Yeah.
Our boys didn't do that.
Right in the thick of it.
They didn't do that.
How was it like on board ship with different people from different parts of the country?
That was
living with
interesting.
those types of people. Like,
Jesse, he was from Indiana, and we had friends from Illinois, and Louisiana, and Ohio, and California, of course.
Yeah.
That part was interesting, I thought, because we got to meet a lot of different people, and they lived different than we did.
Sure,
and,
right.
Some of them from the city, you know, and that was kind of right after the soup days, you know, of the Depression, where everybody had to go soup line, and the city people.
Right.
And some of our boys had to do that.
I guess I should have asked that in the beginning when we were first talking about your life before the war. What was it like going through the Depression? Did it have much of an effect on you guys out on the farm, or?
Well, it wasn't good. The dirt, the dust that come up, it just rolled up over the sun and put the sun out.
So you'd be up. You guys were affected by the Dust Bowl as well.
Yeah. At noon, we had to turn the lights on or light the lanterns and stuff at home out on the farm in order to see. And I was in high school in '35, and that's when the worst part was. And we had to turn the lights on at school because, and then the next morning, our dining room table, Mom always had a tablecloth on. And it'd have that much of that old red dirt that blowed through the
I'll be darned.
windows, you know, and stuff, come in the house. We had to breathe that too, you know. And,
speaking of home, how was it as far as when you were out to sea and on the away from home? How was communications? Were you getting mail pretty regular? Did you guys write back and forth? And
I got home. I didn't tell you. I got home and I got married while I was home.
We'll need to back up and talk about that.
So yeah, we'll have to back up on that. That was in '44. This month, the 26th of this month, and she wrote every day. My wife did.
Well, let's talk. Was she a high school sweetheart, or did you know her probably going into the war? Talk about how you guys met and you wooed her and stuff.
I met her at the dance. We had dances there at Binkaman, Nebraska. Every Thursday they had a dance, so I'd go to dance and she'd go to dance. So that's where I met her.
And that was prior to you going into the service, or were you in the service at this point?
That was before I went in the service.
Okay.
Yeah. And we decided when we kind of when I first went in the service that we wasn't going to get real serious, because you might get killed and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And so we got by that okay, but talking about the mail.
Well, no, I want to finish the story here. We got to finish the story here. So, when did you guys get engaged? Did you come home on a leave and get engaged, or
Yeah.
talk about how you got engaged and got married? And we can't leave this story out.
Yeah, that's quite a story. We got married one day, and 2 days later, I was going back to board ship. So it was a real quick deal.
That
and
had
we
to be
come
tough.
up with the Agronaut down here, Denver, a hotel.
Okay.
That's where we had our honeymoon. And it wasn't much. It was 2 days. And the time we got back home, then I had to turn around and go back to San Francisco, because I flew planes on those deals. So that was quick, but
It must have been tough to leave
that
her.
was tough.
Yeah.
When we had to leave
Yeah.
each other after
Sure.
we just got married. But we got through that all right with letters. And
You said
stuff.
she wrote you every day.
Yeah, well, every day. Yeah.
And how would since you guys were all over the Pacific, was mail pretty consistent? How would the mail find you?
Well, there's a story about the mail too. Our mailman that used to bring our mail out on the farm, he went in the service too, and he was at San Francisco in the post office there, and so he got to see our letters from our girlfriends or folks or whoever, and so he got our mail out to us. Whatever, Guadalcanal mostly is where we docked pretty close to Guadalcanal, and that's where our mail come first, and then it finally catch up with it aboard ship. Some old tanker that we refuel, and then we get our mail.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And that's quite an ordeal, that refueling out to sea.
Mm.
They run that big old hose from that tanker clear over to our ship pulled it over with a rope and stuck it in the hole. We had a round hole about like that. And then they started to pump up on the other ship and pump it full.
And you guys had to stay pretty close
Yeah.
together, consistent. And, yeah, that's quite an operation.
Boy, that's quite an operation.
But I'll
Getting
bet-
that dang hose across was the biggest part of it, especially when
Yeah.
it's rough. And the hose would go down underneath the water, and then we'd get her back up and we'd pull like a dickens and get her across.
But I bet those letters from your wife from home were real welcome. I bet you enjoyed getting those.
I should say.
Yeah.
I should say. And we, some of us didn't get letters like some of us did.
Yeah.
So we would divide. If I got 2 or 3 letters, I'd let my buddies read it too.
Is that
And
right?
we do it. And then if they got some letters that I didn't get any, they'd let me read those.
Huh.
That way we kept home life,
How about letters going back home?
They was real easy. We sent those flight
The V-mail?
aircraft, what do they call them, air or something, and they went pretty fast.
But you really couldn't write a whole lot. You couldn't tell them where you were or anything. So
No.
there was a lot of censored.
And a lot of it was cut
Yeah.
out, and
yeah.
marked out.
Yeah.
It was a mess. So we didn't say nothing about that,
Yeah.
so it wouldn't get messed up so much.
Yeah. How about news from the outside world about what was going on? Did the ship provide you with news? How the war was going and
We
stuff
had
like that? Or
that all come through the radio on board ship.
did you get
And
Tokyo
we have a
Rose?
little mail, letter or newspaper.
Oh, okay. They come over the radio and then they put it onto a little
Yeah.
newspaper.
A newspaper.
How about Tokyo Rose broadcasts? Did you get those?
Golly. She's dead now.
Yeah.
She was a bugger, I'll tell you. She tried to make us feel bad, you know. We went out one night and we sank. I think we sank 3 ships and shot down 4 or 5 planes. And she said that the airplanes sunk us guys, 6 of us. 5.
So it must have been funny to listen to a broadcast being told that your ship was sunk, huh?
Yeah, and come on the radio, you know, we all was sunk. That was something to read. Yeah, yeah, we sunk, but we're still alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the war's over now, and you take the ship back home. Then how much from Hawaii? Where did you land from Hawaii on your way home?
Oh, what's the main place where all the ships are sunk? At Hawaii.
Oh, Pearl.
The dock.
Uh,
Oh, gosh. I can't think of it right now, but
That's fine.
That's where we docked.
Okay.
We docked in there, right alongside the Arizona that was sunk, you know, and the boys are still in there.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, we was probably 100 yards south of those, and then when we got to going, the ship all put back together again, and we got to going out to sea to practice our shooting, you know, and our guns and all that stuff. They take a plane, you know, and tie a thing on behind it, and we'd shoot that. One time we cut the wire up pretty close to the plane, and boy, them guys, they took off. It wasn't nothing to do with us.
Now, was your gun one of the guns that would shoot anti-aircraft, or
Yeah.
were you one of the bigger guns that? So you do that kind of practice then?
Yeah.
Huh?
We were just out there practicing,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Some way or other, the guys didn't get them. I got the shell in all right, and the powder was in, and the gun was loaded, but they they got just a little bit too close to that plane. And boy, they didn't come back either. So we were done shooting that day, but it was kind of fun. It was different. But it'd been terrible for you to hit the plane.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
How was it? I mean, you were in a lot of dangerous situations, be it in battle or typhoons and stuff. How did you deal with that? How were you? Times where you were scared, and how did you deal with? You weren't scared.
I never did get scared.
No.
I was, of course, I was covered with that, and then out on the 20 millimeter, I never was really scared.
Is that right?
That's when I lost my hearing, when I was on that 20 millimeter. All we had was cotton. And this #2 gun come around, and boy, it was right there. You could just about reach out and just blow that cotton right out. You know?
Oh, boy.
And that's where I lost my hearing in this year. And then I lost this from tractors and stuff on the farm. And that was quite an experience of being out where you could see everything.
Right.
And then
And hear
from
everything.
being enclosed, you know.
I've always heard too that hearing and watching the shells from the big battleships fly over was really spectacular as well. Those big 1-ton shells and.
Yeah. The dog fights, we used to get a lot of kick out of watching the planes, our planes take on theirs.
Wow.
That was quite an ordeal. Man, those guys would go down, you know, and then they'd come back up underneath them and just blow them right out of it.
Wow. Oh, wow.
I got a kick out of that.
Now back at now the war's over and you're back. You've come back to the States. How much longer were you in the service before you were finally discharged? Then, after you came back from the South Pacific, were you released right away or?
5 days.
Oh, okay.
Let's see. We went to St. Louis by train. from San Francisco. And then we, Mommy, my wife, she come down by train so we met at St. Louis, and she got our hotel for us and everything. But I wasn't released yet, so she had to stay for one night by herself and everything, and that was okay. But finally we got together, and then we had to go have a little shot, you know.
Oh, you bet. It must have been a wonderful celebration
Yeah.
to be after being apart for so long and what you'd gone through, and you're home safe now. It just must
Yeah.
have been a great. And then from there, you guys went back to Nebraska.
Then we took a train from St. Louis to Omaha. My mother's sister lived there in Omaha, in South Omaha, so we had to stop and see them a little while. So we stayed all night with them the first, and then the next day we took a train home. And,
Do you remember what that was like? Finally getting home to seeing your folks and all the homecoming. Was there much of a home? Did they have a homecoming?
Well, we kept that kind of low. We didn't do too much about that. We got home and we were so tickled to be home that the excitement was kind of all gone.
Now, how was it from their end? Did your wife or your folks ever talk about what they were feeling while you were away, and particularly not knowing really where you were, and what did they talk about their emotions, how they felt about that time?
My wife, she liked to dance, so she'd go to dances on Thursday, and that kind of took her
Mind
back,
off of things.
away from the Navy stuff, you know. And I thought that was okay. And,
sure. Well, how about your mom? With what you had 3 sons? She had 3 sons off in the service.
Two
two.
of us.
Well, and a son-in-law.
Yeah.
So how did she deal with that? Did she ever talk about that at all, or?
My aspirin, 100 in a bottle. So that's what she lived on, really.
Oh boy.
Was aspirin. Yeah. She took it real well, though. She was a strong-hearted person, and Dad, I don't know, he just kind of nonchalant about the whole thing, and the movie.
Yeah. So now you guys are back home in Nebraska. What did you do after that? Did you take some time off, or did you go right back to work, or what was?
My wife, she worked at the AAA office. So my belief was I didn't want my wife working.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have nothing to do either. I didn't have a job. So we let her work until I got settled into a job. And I just worked for a few different guys. I was a hod carrier for a
bricklayer,
plaster guy. Yeah. And that kind of kept us going. Then I got a job with a implement dealer, and they had at that time the government would pay so much, and the individual wherever you worked paid. So I worked at that about a year, and I had enough of that. So there was a plumbing shop in town that wanted to sell. So my brother-in-law on Nina's side, my wife, he wanted a job too. So we bought that plumbing shop.
Now, were you able to take advantage of the GI Bill to help you with that?
What was that?
Did you take advantage of the GI Bill to help you with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a good deal, and it did help. And so we was in that for about 10 years, And then we had the REA just come in, you know, and all the farm boys, the farmers, all got caught up with their new bathrooms and, you know,
Oh, right, yeah.
and stuff like that, and their furnaces and stuff. So there was no more work for us. And so my brother-in-law, they went to Arizona, their family did, and we come up here.
What brought you to Colorado?
We're part,
What brought you here to Colorado?
oh, we come to Fort Collins in '55.
What brought you here? Why did you decide to come to Colorado, to Fort
Oh,
Collins?
we come up and I got a job with Randolph Plumbing
Oh, okay.
up here. And that's what brought us to
Okay.
Colorado.
All right.
And then we thought schooling was good here, college was here. That had something to do with us coming here. Um, we never got to go to college.
Sure.
Of course, I had to go to service.
Right.
And Mommy, she had some dealies that she could have went to school, but her dad was a racehorse man, and he was taking some of her money to play the horses, and
Oh,
that
geez.
upset her.
Yeah.
And so she didn't want any part of that any longer. So we just sold our. We had a new house down there. We sold everything down there and come up here.
And you stayed in the plumbing industry your whole career?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Worked hard.
Oh, sure.
Hard work. We worked with the old cast iron stuff in them days, you
Oh
know.
boy. Yeah.
And we finally got to the plastic when I was ready to retire.
Oh boy. And how many children did you have, Ken?
The two, Gail was our first one, and Gary, our son. And then we got 5 grandchildren. And I just love them.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah, and it's a good thing I got them, because I probably wouldn't be able to stay in this house. They made me had to dig my bed down here instead of walking up the stairs.
Yeah.
I was afraid I'd fall downstairs. I ain't gonna fall downstairs,
Yeah.
but they thought I might.
Yeah. Well, Ken, we'll start to wind down this interview. Let me ask you: is there anything? And I'm going to open this up to you too, Gail. Any stories that you left out you wanted to talk about, or any questions I didn't ask you that you'd like to talk about to really kind of wind down this interview to round it out? Is there anything we left out that you'd like to mention or talk about?
Anything you want to talk about?
Any stories he left out that you remember him telling that he?
I learned a lot. He's told us a lot, which is good, but I learned a couple of stories that I didn't know. The closeness, to the enemy during the war.
Yeah,
Didn't
yeah.
realize that had happened. Probably, it would be interesting for Dad to talk a little bit more about his connection with his shipmates after all these years.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Were
I'm
you
sorry.
not-
I always ask that. I forgot to ask
No,
it.
that's okay.
Yeah. Over the years, did you keep in touch with shipmates? Go to reunions and such. Talk a little bit
Yeah.
about that.
We did. We went to Washington, D.C. We didn't get to go to all of them because Mom was kind of sick in them
Okay.
days along. And we went to Albany, New York. While she was still alive, I think that was the only 2 she got to see. But she enjoyed both of them. And then I went to San Antonio, Texas, and then they had one in Denver earlier that we got to go to. And
You mentioned you'd hosted one as well. Yes.
Yeah.
You'd hosted one.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then Santa Cruz, California. That was her last one. Well, we had one here
Yeah.
in
Right.
between there,
Yeah.
and we enjoyed that very much. And,
Is there buddies that you still keep in touch with?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We call, every once in a while, and of course we get the newsletter. got a regular USS Farenholt letter type of deal.
Right.
And we enjoyed that. It tells about the different guys. They send in stuff, you know,
Yeah,
that they
yeah, yeah.
did.
Yeah.
And of course, I sent in my holes in one, you know.
Oh, sure. Tell how many have you had in your lifetime? Let's talk about. You had mentioned that off the camera, but how many have you had holes in one in your lifetime?
Four.
Four.
Yeah. I'd like to have one more.
Is that right? I think anybody would just like to have one in their lifetime. You want one more.
Yeah. That's not being fair, maybe.
Yeah.
But I'd like to have just one more, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have five, but
But-
it's just like hitting a home run. I like to play baseball. Baseball is my favorite sport. Then golf, and then basketball, on down the line.
Yeah.
But anyway, I played a lot of semi-pro baseball down at Binkelman and Wauneta. We had a regular, all the towns had a baseball team, and we were semi-pro.
And this is prior to you going to the service?
Yeah,
Is that right? Yeah.
yeah. And then after I got out of the service too, and that was interesting to have a family, our whole family go. The kids was real small when we got out of the service and started it, and interesting. Of course, I like baseball.
Did you ever feel that maybe that the war years kind of interrupted? Do you think you could have gone on with your career at all, or do you think that interrupted your career in baseball? Was there any chance to go pro?
I didn't talk that Navy stuff very much. I didn't want any part of it after I got out. They wanted me to go back for 20 years, you know, added on to what I was already there. I didn't want any part of that.
Well, my question was though, you played semi-pro baseball, and then you went off to war. Do you think that interrupted your career, or your baseball career at all? Do you think you could have gone?
I think so. That and my dad, I had a chance to go down to McCook. They had a special deal down there for anybody that wanted to try out. And the Yankees and the Cleveland Indians and Kansas City was all there. And he said, you gotta work, finish the work first.
Yeah.
So I didn't get to go, but boy, I wished I had them. Of course, I wouldn't probably been here, but,
Yeah.
but maybe I would have. I
I'll
don't
be
know.
darned.
Yeah. That would have been fun. But you know, that's a hard old life, that baseball.
Sure.
Those boys have to leave home and leave their family. They can't take them with them every place they go.
But,
That's a hard old life.
yeah, but being a plumber wasn't easy either, I don't
No.
think. So, you had
That was hard work.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
do that.
Dad, you might want to tell about the citation your ship finally got. The citation?
Oh, yeah, my citation, yeah.
What was the citation for?
What all the stuff that we did. We had 11, or let's see, we had 12
Battle stars?
battles that we was in, bombardments, and battles. We had 96 planes come in on us one time at Guadalcanal. And they only sunk one of our ships out of that whole bunch. Yeah. There's a lot more about that daggone deal, and I can't get it to going, but I'll get it going for you.
Yeah, maybe when we pull the camera to take pictures and stuff, you
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
do that. Well, let me one last question I always like to ask in these interviews is, how do you think that period of time played a role in your life, or changed your life, affected your life, or did it, or was it just simply a period of your life? Did it change your life at all, affect your life at all?
Well, not really. I didn't let it. Uh, my brother Warren, he just loved to talk about that Navy stuff. Of course, they got buggered up pretty bad when they got hit. The whole front of the ship, it blew this bottom up, and the front went down over the, and it was a sad situation. But he liked to talk about that all the time. I didn't like. I just didn't like to talk about
So
it.
you went off, did your bit, came back, and just moved on.
Yeah.
Then is that?
Yeah. And I'd rather be playing ball or working or playing with the kids or something, you know. Family, family is real important to me.
Ah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, we'll wrap up the interview part of this interview.
Okay.
I want to thank you for sitting down to tell your story today, but more importantly, I want to thank you for your service to our country.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Thank you.
Right now, right there. And then these are all my buddies here. And we had, you can't see them, but we had a pistol on our belt, and they wasn't loaded.
It was just more for show, huh? Yeah. Now, this is when you went to get the Japanese officers on the island?
Yeah, that shows, here we are here. And this here, oh, that's our captain there. And that's all the Japanese officers that we picked up and took back to Okinawa. Yeah.
And you said that's you there?
No, that I made a mistake on that.
Oh.
I was right back here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This is the day that Warren, my brother and I got to meet each other. He come over aboard ship, and we had dinner together, and we also had dinner with my brother-in-law, Monk. He was with us too, and I really enjoyed that.
Oh, I'll bet.
That
Okay.
Can you get a little bit down here? I want to show you Gene. That's Gene right there.
Uh-huh.
He's the one that started this.
And what's this resolution for, Ken?
For
Explain that.
all the 13 battles that we had is what it was for. That we were supposed to get. We were supposed to get this when we left the ship, but they never did get it done through Congress. And so.
And the date on that's July 30th, 2008. Why did it take so long to get that?
That's what it's.
Yeah, okay.
It's what we were so upset about, you know. And we finally got it, and this is the rest of it here. And this is my brother-in-law, Monk, and of course that's me and my buddy aboard ship, Bullington, who is his name, and his brother. And we was over dancing and hit all the bars in San Francisco that night. This is the day before my wife and I, Nina, was married. We was out on the farm, and you can see I don't have my Navy outfit on. But I should have, I guess.
Okay, Ken.
okay. This is my brother-in-law, and that's my buddy Oscar Bullington. And this is my gun that I was in, bullet shell loader. And one time we shot so many, our gun got on fire out here. There was a canvas around here to cover up this hole. The barrel got so hot, this got on fire. And that's a picture of it.
Remember where you were when you had this picture taken of you and your whites?
What was that, buddy?
Do you remember where you were when you had that picture taken of you and your whites?
Where was we? You mean the one out on the farm?
This one here in your whites.
Oh, in the whites. Oh, golly. Hawaii, I think.
Okay.
What's that big hotel over there?
Oh, Waikiki or right?
Waikiki.
Yeah.
That's where it was.
Okay. Here, you remember where that was taken or when?
That was taken down at Binkman,
Okay.
Nebraska. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay. We was over there in those islands that you can see in behind there.
Uh-huh.
And then this is my ship, or my gun that I was on.
Okay, number 1 gun.
Number 1 gun, uh-huh. And I was a shell loader in there. And then when I got back from my vacation or leave,
Uh-huh.
I was on a 20 millimeter right up here. And then this gun would turn around and be right where we was at.
And that's where you lost your
That's
hearing?
where I lost my hearing.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's fine. So Ken, what's this here now?
Well, we went to Australia.
Uh-huh.
We were supposed to go for 15 days, and we only got to stay 5 days. So we went ashore, and we hit the bars and whatever, and it wasn't very nice. But we had to drink our troubles away.
Sure.
So we did that. So that gave me a souvenir. And there's all my battles and stuff where I was at.
Okay. So you've got, I see, what, 5 battle stars on there? 6 battle stars?
Well, we got more than that. I just didn't get them all down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But on these I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ken, in closing with this interview, I wanted to ask you, is there any sort of statement you would like to make, a closing statement for present and future generations that'll watch this tape, a message you'd like to say to people that are going to watch this?
Well, you know, we went in the service at a different time than they do now, I think. I think if we'd have been in the service now, we'd have had that thing over there wrapped up and put away a long time ago. We're losing too many boys over there and girls. My only thing that I had against the service was we learned how to kill people, and I didn't like that. And we learned how to smoke and drink, and that wasn't too good either.
Yeah.
You know, I used to shoot rabbits on the run with an automatic rifle, you know. I never thought too much about that until I started the service, putting that shell in that gun and blowing up whatever was over there. And we didn't know what was over there. Little kids, mothers and fathers, and we didn't know what was there. And I didn't like that too much, but that's the way it was.
Yeah.
So we had to do it, and we did it.
Yeah.
And we got it over with right away.
Well, once again, Ken, thank you again for your time
Yeah.
today, and
Okay.
more importantly, your service to our country.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.